I'm Scott,
I'm Kyle.
and this is Crushing Trails and Drinking Ales. This month, Kyle and I both committed to running a half marathon every day for 7 straight days. And one of us had a good experience, one did not. Stick around and hear about that, as well as Kyle's month running some new trails to him up in Santa Clarita, as well as Los Leones. And then I ran the Spider Mountain Trail Race, the 6 hour event. Might have placed, might have not. Maybe it was a good day, maybe it was a bad day. You'll have to listen and find out.
Let's go ahead and have you comment on this video, please, and hit the subscribe button, and then hit the notification bell so that way you can be informed anytime we're out there crushing trails and drinking ales. All right, let's get into it.
Hey, Kyle, so what are you drinking tonight?
I just pulled one out of the fridge that I've had there since Memorial Day. It's the Kona Big Wave.
Awesome. Well, while you're sipping on that, let's take a look and see how May went for you. Kyle, that looked like another great month of running. I know we're going to talk a little bit. We're both going to talk a little bit about the half marathon week challenge that we just wrapped up. But outside of that, why don't you talk a little bit about how May went for you?
Pretty uneventful month for me in terms of no races at all on the schedule. So just hitting the local trails. I went over, did the Culver Stairs, Kenneth Hahn area one of the weekends. Then one weekend, I went up to the Santa Clarita area, and I figure it's going to be a good area for, some heat training leading up to AC 100.
How far away from you is that?
Well, it took me like 35 minutes to get to where I was going in Santa Clarita. I'll definitely go up there and hit it on a regular basis just to get more of that heat training.
Nice. Anything else you had going on?
I went to Los Leones, which is a favorite spot of mine. I had 18 miles on the schedule, so just kind of explored a bunch of the area. With about 3 miles left, I had this pretty gnarly ascent that I haven't done before. I've seen it from the top looking down. I was like, I really don't want to bomb that necessarily. 23.5% grade, so just kind of like a nice little death march up a hill before I started my last 3 miles. So, and one of the days I did go over to Smog City and meet up with a friend. So classic brewery, used to visit all the time when I lived in the Torrance area. Outside of that, that was really it for my May.
Cool. Anything going on in June?
Really, the thing will just be like getting through training and getting to Wisconsin in the beginning of July. So June might be a flyover month for me.
Okay.
What are you drinking tonight?
Yeah, so I've got a new one to me. It's from Jester King Brewing right here in Austin, Texas. It is a blue corn lager, 4.8%. So it's nice and light. Jester King used to only do sours and wild fermented ales, but a year or so ago, they started doing quote unquote clean beers and trying this lager. It's pretty tasty. So
awesome. Well, while you're enjoying that, let's check out your month of May. Looks like a nice month of running for you in May. Go ahead and tell us about it.
Yeah, May was somewhat chill, I guess. Not a lot going on. The big thing was the Spider Mountain Trail Run, which I did on, I think it was May 11th. It's out at a mountain bike park here, about a little over an hour away. There's actually a ski lift gondola that's been repurposed out there. You could have ridden it up or downhill. I rode down just because, part of the purpose was to get some vert in. There was one technical descent that I just wasn't a fan of. And so when I got the opportunity to skip it, I did. I think it would have saved you some time if you were running up. but it definitely was slower on the way down for sure. Did that race. I did the 6 hour. I did put a video together. Nothing crazy, but put a video together to kind of be able to see the course, and then I did a second video that actually is kind of a normal speed. So if anybody's looking to do that race in the future, you can kind of check out and see what the course looks like. So
Yeah, great opportunity for someone to literally know what to expect
yeah,
when they get there.
absolutely. I mean, I know a lot of times I try to get on YouTube to kind of see what courses look like, and sometimes you don't really get a very good idea of it. So I did a video of the entire first lap. It was the same lap over and over. So that's posted. It went up last week. So check that out if you're interested in running this Spider Mountain race next year. It's funny, we talked about it, last month, and my goal was to potentially maybe get around like 7 laps. If I could get 8, it'd be great. If I would have done 7, I probably would have won the race. 8 would have definitely won the race.
Did you get one of the spiders that was on the table?
Well, interestingly enough, I didn't think that I did very well in the race because I was mostly kind of power hiking with my poles uphill and then kind of running downhill. When I got done, I had a little bit of food and kind of some fluids, and I got in the car and drove home because it was, I don't know, 1:45 in the morning or whatever. So 4 or 5 days later, I was like, oh, maybe I'll just check the results, and that's when I found out that I was third in my age group. So I probably did win a spider, but maybe I just got to do it again next year.
You already know the course, and if you forget, you have a video to look at and
There you go.
remember.
After Spider Mountain, the weekend after Spider Mountain, my nephew got married, so we were out in the kind of the middle of nowhere. Kind of started running down one of the roads and saw that there was a cow that was just kind of hanging out. It was a narrow road with fence on both sides, and the cow could not get anywhere else. So he paced me for about a mile and a half. She would run up ahead and wait, and then I would get close and it would scare it again, and it would run, and then it turned a corner ahead of me, and I turned the corner, and when I got there the cow was gone. So I don't know where it went because there was still fence on both sides, but he must have jumped a fence or went through a fence or something. Outside of that, a lot of my running has just been kind of around the neighborhood and that sort of thing. It's been unseasonably hot, and the humidity has been unseasonably high. So, I'm used to warm, humid runs in the spring, but this year has been exceptionally bad. Not much I can do. I guess it's good training. So got out to Big Bend National Park out in the desert in West Texas, up into the mountains, where there was no humidity, which was fantastic. It was warm, but it actually felt more comfortable than here in Austin.
What are you thinking about June? Anything you're looking forward to?
Pretty much just running whatever's on the calendar for training. That said, I am going to do one race, Captain Carl's out at Pedernales Falls. It's part of a series, but I'm probably only going to do the first one. The good thing is the hottest part of that race is the start. I'm going to do the 60K out there as part of obviously my biggest run for this month. Probably have a work trip out to El Paso and then another one to Midland, Odessa, kind of the last 2 weeks of the month. When I'm out there, I'll probably move some things around a little bit to do some longer runs during the week, just to kind of take a pressure off the weekend, to have a little more family time. That's pretty much what June looks like for me.
Awesome. So one of the things we both ended the month of May with and kicked off the month of June with was the half marathon a day, every day for a week challenge. So Scott, tell us a little bit about your experience on that.
Yeah, I mean, I probably got to set the stage a little bit, right? Actually the first week that we were going to try to do it, it ended up not working out. We ended up doing it the second week that would work. Part of that was like I was looking at my work travel schedule, and instead of sitting in a hotel, I can go run, right? So if I have a work trip coming up, if I can pair it with this, that kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off of it, where I'm doing several of those while I'm out of town, and it's not taking as much time. So, kind of looked at the calendar, and initially it was going to be great timing. So a colleague of mine ended up scheduling some work dinners while I was out in El Paso. I thought it was going to be something that was going to be the running part would be the challenge, but ultimately what happened was the travel, the family, the work schedule, that actually became the bigger challenge. Made things very difficult for me, bringing weather into the whole thing. It was hot and humid in Austin, and it was very hot in El Paso. So even with some of the scheduling challenges, if we were doing this in December, probably wouldn't have been as bad, but I really struggled to stay hydrated and be able to pull off the run. So it was rough for me. I'm not going to lie. It was a big challenge, but I know you had a little bit better experience.
No scheduling problems at all. I'm not traveling for work, so I'm here. But that being said, it was coming off Memorial Day weekend, which led into my hilly half on Tuesday. So my first day was intended to just be kind of one focused on elevation gain. It was a little sunny that day, nothing in terms of the weather you were dealing with, obviously.
And yeah, and I mean, on my first day, typically Tuesdays are my hill days as well. I mean, obviously we have not the same schedule, but very similar schedule. So yeah, on Tuesday ended up kind of similar thing. I had meetings all day, and then had a customer dinner that night. At a steakhouse, I ate the smallest steak possible, and stomach was a little heavy, but it wasn't nearly as bad as it was on that first night. So that's when I did most of my vert. So nothing super crazy, but I did get over 1,300 feet of elevation that night. And was able to, again, didn't start until 9:30, 9:45. Run number two was a little bit better, but yeah, how did your second run go for you?
My route was pretty flat all in all, but I don't know if it was the day before with the hilly half, or if it was the day prior to that with Memorial Day. But I was still struggling on day two, which took me into day three then, and that one actually I went east on the Bologna Creek bike path, which is another relatively flat route. It was supposed to be a tempo run, and I found myself kind of moving at a decent click out there. So I ended up running my second fastest half marathon of all time, which isn't saying a lot, but I was pretty happy with the performance. So, how about you? How did day three end up shaking out?
So day three was interesting, right? Is I finished up day two pretty late. Didn't get a lot of sleep. Had to get up that morning, and I had a work breakfast. The plan was to get on the trails, but I couldn't do that. So ended up going down, and there's a paved path right next to the Rio Grande. It's 100% exposed. Unfortunately, there's nowhere to get water. I only had two bottles on me, so it was pretty rough. The last like 2.5 miles ended up being kind of a walk run. It was pretty brutal. So ended up, finishing that thing up, getting back to the hotel, showering real quick, throwing all my stuff in the suitcase, and then heading to the airport. Had delays and then flight cancellations and all that fun stuff, and ended up in Dallas. So a buddy of mine picked me up. We did go to Community Brewing in Dallas. They got a really nice tap room, so I had a couple beers. Did not get to do a run until that Friday night. I didn't push the pace at all, but it was my fastest of this series of 7 runs, and I felt great the whole time. This is completely soaked with sweat. That's kind of how that one went. How did your Friday run go?
I kind of feeling the high off the last one and the speed. I decided to go south on the bike path this time, which has even less like sort of elevation change than the east route. And I ended up running my fastest half marathon of all time. It's not saying much, I know, but I was pretty proud of that. So it kind of like set the stage before going into the weekend, which for me, I'd planned that both of the Saturday and Sunday events were going to be on the trail. So on my Saturday, I knew from prior experience near the sign at Los Leones, not the gate necessarily, but the sign, that you're able to basically get a full half marathon by running from there to Trippett Ranch and back. So my Saturday ended up being just a nice trail half marathon. It's a route that's like very much up for the first half, and then when you turn around and come back, it's a lot of downhill. So some fun sends on the last mile or so, just hitting the single track over there. I guess it was no longer the May gray. It was the beginning of the June gloom on Saturday, but it was overcast, beautiful out there for how I like to run in terms of beautiful.
So Saturday morning, it was a pretty quick turnaround from Friday night. My wife had an event with our older daughter, so I had our 3-year-old. So we grabbed the running stroller and headed out to a local park that has a paved path along a trail. She unfortunately slept a little longer than I was hoping, so we got a little bit later start. I pushed her in the stroller running until we got to a playground, and then she would get out and play while I chugged as many fluids and ate some calories, and then she would jump back in and we would kind of repeat that process for 13 miles. So that's what I did on Saturday morning. It was a great time to spend with my daughter, and she actually loves getting in the stroller, and she gets disappointed if I go on a run without her. So Sunday, originally I was hoping to get on a trail at some point, but my wife had plans on Sunday morning for brunch with a friend.
Sunday fun day.
Sunday fun day.
Sunday fun day, biznitches.
So she did that. I had the girls. So basically, had to run on Sunday night. It was okay, not the greatest run, but the kids were worn out from the day, so I actually did start before the sunset, which was kind of nice and kind of crappy too because it was still hot. Did get out, which meant a little bit earlier finish for me, which meant another quick turnaround. But before I get to that, how was your Sunday run?
My sixth day, my Sunday run was another one that was out on the trail. I went to Culver Stairs slash Kenneth Hahn. There's a particular 10-mile route that I'm familiar with. So I kind of did a little math when I was out there and figured if I ran an extra loop in a couple different spots, I'd be able to extend it to a half marathon. But that took me into Monday today. And
The big finish.
I took the same route I took on Friday, which was the beach path route that I had set my record on. And I was feeling good and I pushed hard and I ended up setting yet again a personal best in the half marathon. So that was how I wrapped things up. How about yourself? How did it end out?
It was a quick turnaround, Sunday night to Monday morning. And got a little bit later start than I was hoping for. Definitely did some walk run at certain points. It was a slow one. I was running and I heard my watch beep, and I was like, "All right, mile 11. I got 2 left to go." And I looked at my watch, and it was actually mile 10. Mental state obviously declined quite a bit. I didn't have enough fluids with me for 3 more miles. So I ended up having to run down the hill to get to the water fountain in the neighborhood to refill fluids, which meant I have to go back up the hill to get back home. Got it done. It was a struggle. Definitely nothing went as I had planned. I'd hoped to do a bunch of these on trails and did 0 of them on trails. They were all on the roads, which I'm sure did not help with the mental state. You might as well get through some sucky stuff in training because that's only going to help on race day.
Alrighty, good stuff. But I think the thing we're both most excited about is the fact that we're going to be able to have 2 in-person updates when we're together in July in Wisconsin, and then when we're together in California here for AC 100. So look forward to having some non-virtual updates where we get to sit side by side.
Here we go. We'll see you guys next month. Cheers.
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 I'm ready to get drunk.